In this video, we'll review the thriller Trapped 2016, a chilling story of survival where a woman finds herself caught in a deadly game with a dangerous stranger. Let's break it down scene by scene. A woman is changing clothes after hiding in the car. At this time, a man suddenly appeared. The frightened woman quickly covered her chest and quickly hid on one side to put on her vest. The woman saw that the other party had no malice and even saw the car on the side of the road. The man took the initiative to take off his clothes and showed off his charming 8 abs. He didn't say anything else and just helped her fix it. It didn't take much effort and the car was restarted. Annie thanked Jack and the driver was ready to leave. But after a while, she found out from the rearview mirror that Jack was walking alone on a desolate road. After all, it's not safe and he helped herself. So she decided to drive Jack into the city. Unexpectedly, the man she was kind to was a pervert who was worse than a beast. The two of them were driving on a deserted road. As the rhythm of the music became more and more intense, Jack became speechless from the beginning. Even some topics became heavy. This sudden change made Annie a little impatient. Annie, who was in a hurry, immediately parked the car on the side of the road and urged the other party to get off the car. Who knew that Jack grabbed her arm and pulled out a sharp dagger from his body and threatened Annie to drive the car to a small forest 10 kilometers away. At this time, Annie was scared to death and had to obey Jack's arrangement. But just in front of her, Jack was about to pass an emergency turn and saw that the other party did not tie the seatbelt. So she immediately came up with a bold idea and stepped on it with one foot. When Annie woke up again, she found herself hanging in the car because of the seatbelt. One leg was also stuck dead in the groove below the seat. Now there was no way to move it. Then she looked back through the rearview mirror and found that Jack was thrown out of the car. It looked like he may have gone to the west. The next day, when Annie had simply treated the wound, she was in a hurry to find her cell phone and was ready to call the police. But the cell phone was thrown somewhere. What's worse, Jack in the rearview mirror suddenly moved. This scared Annie to death. Fortunately, she found a fallen knife. She tried to move her body and got the knife in her hand. She didn't wait to figure out how to deal with the pervert. A big foot suddenly appeared, which was incredible. A huge force threw him out. She didn't expect Jack to only have a slight scratch on his head. There was nothing else in other places, especially when he saw Annie's disaster. Jack was naturally happy and planned to find a place to rest. When he came back, he slowly tortured Annie. At this time, she was completely desperate. She tried her best to save herself. However, in this wilderness, there was no one in 5 kilometers. As time went on, Annie still couldn't get out of the car. Now, Annie's physical strength had also run out. She had to find a sleeping dress and go to bed. The next morning, Annie was woken up by Jack. He took half a bottle of mineral water and took a sip. But after a sip, he spit the water back. He knew this was the only way to support his life. After a day, it was night again. This time, she went to bed early. But the next morning, Annie was woken up by a footstep. She immediately took the broken mirror to check. It turned out that Jack had appeared. She looked at the other party holding water and food. She thought Jack had changed his mind. Unexpectedly, he opened a bottle of water in front of Annie and drank it. Annie, who couldn't stand it, looked itchy. At this time, Jack said he could save her, but she had to promise him a condition. But in front of Annie, she had to compromise. He didn't want Jack to tell her the details of his first date with her boyfriend. After Annie heard it, she had to expose the cause and effect of the story. Unexpectedly, the other party was a beast. Not only did he not give her food, but he turned around and left. The woman had been trapped in the car for 3 days and 3 nights because her legs were stuck under the seat and she couldn't move. But during this period, this bad guy appeared every day and ate food and water and even kept teasing her. But there was no one. Annie had to accept it silently. In desperation, she had to find a paper and a pen and write down her experience. She hoped that one day the police would use this clue to bring Jack to justice. Then she took out a lighter and lit a pile of fire. Then she slept under the warm light. But in the middle of the night, she was woken up by a rat on her body. Annie hurriedly threw it out. Looking at the car full of rats, she couldn't drive them away. Annie had to kill them one by one. Seeing the woman move her companion, she was terrified. The other rats were scared and ran away, but Annie hadn't eaten for 3 days and 3 nights. Looking at the rat's corpse, she was shocked. At this moment, she was really hungry and dizzy. She cut the rat's meat with a knife and put it on a wooden stick as a barbecue. As the rat meat was grilled, it immediately aroused Annie's appetite. After she was full, Annie gradually fell asleep. But on the 4th morning, she was woken up by the vibration of her phone. She found her phone on the tree outside the car. She used her strength to grab the phone. At this time, the other party had hung up the phone and wanted to call back. The pervert Jack came again. Annie hid the phone with a sword, but the other party saw the rat meat she ate. Jack also admired Annie. Then Jack left. Unexpectedly, the phone vibrated again. This made Jack immediately notice. Without further ado, he dived into the car and snatched the phone in Annie's hand. Then he stepped on the phone with one foot. However, Jack didn't completely lose his humanity. At this time, he put down a black bag and took out a hammer and a steel rod from it and gave her 2 choices: either cut off her legs or be trapped in the car. After Jack left, she tried to cut off her seat, but this method didn't work at all. But she didn't have the courage to do it to herself. It was late at night. Annie was really thirsty, but there was no water in the water bottle, so she had to put the bottle under her body. She didn't wait to try how it tastes. It was raining heavily in the sky. When she was full of hope for survival, a car suddenly passed by. Annie saw it and called for help. Unexpectedly, the person in the car was Jack. After Annie saw it, she immediately lied down and pretended to be dead. Jack looked at the other party and didn't know if she was dead or alive. He immediately dived into the car and stabbed her in the body. Jack ran up while she was still alive, but as the rain got heavier, Annie thought she was going to die. Unexpectedly, the rain rushed the car down, and Annie's leg was pulled out, so Annie managed to escape. At this time, she didn't dare to stay and ran out of the forest. On the way, she saw a house with lights on. On the way to escape, the woman suddenly found a terrifying scene. The woman in the house suddenly made a painful cry. She found out a week later that the culprit was Jack, who wanted to kill her. At this time, he was torturing the woman crazily. With a deafening scream, the housekeeper was sent directly to the northwest by Jack. But Annie, in order to make the other party pay a painful price, took advantage of Jack's time to pee. Annie sneaked into the room. Unexpectedly, the scene in the house scared her a lot. It turned out that not only the woman in the house was killed, it turned out that he had turned this place into his own secret base. Annie saw Jack and saw that the other party had not returned. She took the opportunity to hide in a room and was about to let go of the woman inside. Unexpectedly, Jack suddenly walked in from the outside. Annie was in a panic and hid behind the door quickly. She picked up the gun she found and shot Jack directly. Unexpectedly, this shot missed. Annie was completely exposed. The two of them killed each other at random. The gun was also taken away by the other party. Fortunately, at the critical moment, a woman was in a hurry to help. The two of them managed to escape from the room. At this time, Annie quickly hid under the table, but soon she was found by Jack. After a fierce fight, Annie was not the opponent at all. She was directly pressed under his body. Just when Jack was about to do something bad to Annie used all her strength to kick his lower body. When the other party was in pain, she hurried to the second floor and hid. When Jack came to the second floor to look for Annie, she directly hit Jack and caused the other party to fall down from the second floor. Unfortunately, a leg was pinched by the beast, and Annie came to Jack and gave him two choices. If he didn't cut his own thigh, he would wait for the wolf to eat him. Then Annie left here with the woman she saved and survived.